The premise is that Latka is out of his apartment because it was demolished, because it wouldn't burn, apparently. Alex and the gang are trying to help him find a place, but Latka finds a place on his own. Of course, the place is huge, and Latka is paying $3,000 a month for it, which is nuts. And here's where things take a weird turn. Alex is going to help him get out of the lease for this apartment, which, by the way, comes with a live-in maid, I think it's live-in?
Yes, that's the correct term.
Welcome back to another episode of The Rank. I'm John, and today we're going to be ranking another episode of Taxi. If you're enjoying these episodes, or if you're just a fan of Taxi and enjoy consuming content about it, please consider subscribing and or following. Like the episodes, comment, email your suggestions, comments, whatever, to info@therankpodcast.com. Please also consider becoming a patron on our Patreon site at patreon.com/therankpodcast. Now, today we're ranking the 9th episode of the 2nd season of Taxi, titled The Apartment, written by Barry Rubinowitz and directed by, you guessed it, James Burrows. All right, so this series is 45 years old, so you've had an opportunity to watch it. If you haven't watched it before now, I feel like I shouldn't have to warn you for a spoiler, but spoiler alert anyway. So as I continue my goal to find out what is the best sitcom of all time, we're going to be ranking every single episode of a series, and then those rankings get averaged for the series, and we find out what's the best sitcom of all time. In this case, we're looking at Taxi. So let's find out how it did, starting with the Potent Notables.
Potent Notables.
So this 31st episode of Taxi was released on Tuesday, November 13th, 1979. It was 7th for the week in ratings at a 25.7, which is actually a pretty big increase from last week. And I guess that the fact that it was a pretty good episode last week has made the rounds. I don't know. But it beat all the other Tuesday night ABC shows except Three's Company, since that one's a beast and came in 4th at a 29 rating. But it just barely beat Happy Days, which came in just behind Taxi with a 25.3 rating. And as for the top 10, 7 CBS shows and 3 ABC shows. All the ABC ones I already mentioned. And the winner of the week was 60 Minutes at a 31.9. So back when people used to watch the news.
Nobody does that anymore.
Now, in this episode, Latka rents an apartment. We find out the rent for the apartment is $3,000 a month, which is a lot. But if you adjust that for inflation, so $3,000 per month rent in 1979, in 2025, that would be equivalent to $12,749.45 a month. So that's a lot. I feel like you should get more for your money. I guess I'm coming with a maid is pretty good. Anyway, so we're going to do another actor highlight. And this episode, we're going to focus on Nancy Steen, who played the maid. So she started her career just a year earlier and ended up moving away from acting shortly after that. Steen joined the writing staff of Police Squad, which is what ended up becoming the Naked Gun series, and Happy Days in the early 1980s, launching a prolific television writing and producing career. She became known for her work on popular sitcoms throughout the 80s and 90s, including Night Court, Married with Children, and Roseanne. So I'm curious when we're going to see a Nancy Steen written episode of Married with Children. I wonder if we've already had one and I didn't realize it. She was praised for her ability to blend sharp humor with character-driven storytelling. She later co-created and produced The Charmings and served as a producer on Jesse, Kirk, and Titus. So Steen became sort of like a figure in network comedy, right? They would bring her in to punch up dialogue and shape story arcs. Her work even earned her Emmy nominations, multiple Emmy nominations. So in recent years, Steen's focus has shifted more toward development and consulting roles, though she does occasionally return to produce episodic. Yeah, so she started as a performer, became a comedy writer. It's kind of fun. But those are the Potent Notables. Let's go to the episode overview. So we open the episode with Tony excitedly telling everyone that he just had Neil Armstrong as a fare. Of course, then we find out that he was taking him to the unemployment office and that he didn't have money. This is Neil Armstrong. Guy says Neil Armstrong doesn't have money. And then Neil Armstrong gave him something better than money. He gave him a piece of the moon instead. So of course, as the audience, we all figured out pretty quickly that Tony got duped, but that's not what the episode is going to be about. Right after that, Louis comes down the stairs and starts talking about getting chewed out because someone slept in the boss's office last night and he wants to figure out who it was. Louis is going up to everyone and asking, who slept in the office? Come on, can't be doing that. Who slept in the office? Then Latka walks by in a robe, which actually did get me. This is how we find out we've got a Latka episode on our hands today. Now, when I discovered this, I was a little concerned because I really like Latka, but when they focused on him in the past, they've sort of killed the comedy, right? What they did really well in this one, though, is they didn't bother with his gibberish language. I think that's what hurt the previous episodes that have tried to do this. They make it about his language and make that the joke, and it just gets old quick. They didn't turn to that at all in this episode, which is nice. So that's the good. The bad? Well, it just wasn't a very funny episode. It was entertaining and fun for the most part, but just not very funny. The premise is that Latka is out of his apartment because it was demolished, because it wouldn't burn, apparently. Alex and the gang are trying to help him find a place, but Latka finds a place on his own. Of course, the place is huge, and Latka is paying $3,000 a month for it, which is nuts. And here's where things take a weird turn. Alex is going to help him get out of the lease for this apartment, which, by the way, comes with a live-in maid, I think it's live-in?
Yes, that's the correct term.
Anyway, there's just a maid there all the time. And as he's like trying to help Latka get out of this apartment, he's becoming steadily convinced that that the apartment is just too good to let go. So Latka is like, well, I have $3,000 in my account. That's why I was able to do this. And then Alex is like, well, it's per month. And Latka's like, well, what am I going to do next month? So he's basically got 1 month's worth of rent. And I was thinking, oh, Alex is going to move in with him, right? They're going to split the rent. Then we see the entire gang hanging out in the apartment, and the maid announces every one of them when they come in, by the way. But I then assumed that they were splitting the rent and living there together. Because, why not? Except Elaine is the only one that doesn't make sense. Because like, where are her kids? We find out they're at the pool getting swimming lessons and learning French by the elevator guy. I don't know what you call the guy in the elevator. Well, anyway, they're certainly not going to stay there, as we discover that they're all lamenting that they're going to have to leave the apartment in 4 days. They really want to stay, so they decide to throw a rent party, which is basically just a singles mixer where they charge $10 a head, except they forget to invite any women. They did invite Dick Buttkiss, though, so that's good. Now, Elaine is going to come in after like all this frustration with all the guys being like, hey, this is a sausage party, and she's the only woman in the room. It's packed full of men, and she's understandably nervous, but they still have her do like a kind of sensual dance on a table, only to have her run away and all the men get their money back anyway. It's a very bizarre part of the episode. So that leads us to the end, where they're all saying goodbye to the apartment and then thanking Latka for giving them a great month. And this is when it hit me that they literally mooched off Latka for a month and didn't pay him a dime. That's fucking crazy. And then deigned to give him the last night to himself. Oh, wow. It's so benevolent. Now, Latka doesn't seem to care, right? But I think it's pretty fucked up. Don't worry, though. Latka is going to get offered some knick-knack from the maid. So I guess he ends up being happy. But that's how we end the episode, with knick-knack. Just kind of bananas. All right, well, let's see how it ranked. All right, now before I go to the rank, if you're enjoying the episode, please leave a like. It really helps us out.
A rank.
Anyway, the rank is where I rank the episode based on 5 categories: story, acting, dialogue, episode coherence, and character relatability. I rank it on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. And then we have a laugh counter where I tally up the amount of times that the episode made me laugh out loud. That gets added to the score. First category is story, which I gave a 3.25. I enjoyed the story, but it wasn't really much of a story. It was basically just a concept, and then they put a bunch of stuff around it. It was a good concept, though, so that makes the story seem better, I suppose. So let's go to acting, which I gave a 3.75. Pretty good. Jeff Conaway is getting a lot better. Part of me wonders if I'm just getting used to him, but I'm thinking that maybe getting rid of Randall Carver helped him out. Just having somebody be that bad was like dragging him down. I don't know. Either way, it was all decently acted. So let's go to dialogue, which I gave a 3.25. This episode was fun, but it wasn't very funny. It feels like it could have been better than it was. Like the writers were almost there, but just decided, fuck it. I'm sick of editing. And then this is what we got.
I could relate to that too.
All right, so let's go to episode coherence, which I gave a 3.5. I think it's mostly pretty good. Other than having Elaine dance saucily on top of a table and then to immediately pull her away, it was just really bizarre. The episode felt a little slapped together at times, and I didn't really understand how they were all okay with just not helping Latka out at all with the rent. Messed up. So let's go to character relatability, which I gave a 4. I thought everyone was pretty relatable. I could feel Elaine's fear when she walked into a room full of men. That was pretty visceral. Also, if a guy walked into a room full of women, he would not be fearful. Nervous, maybe, but for a different reason, but not fearful. And watching that, nobody was like, oh, that's ridiculous. It was just like, yeah, that's not a great situation for her. I'm just saying, there's a reason they choose The Bear, and it's not just because it's a good show.
Oh, brother.
All right, well, those are all the categories, so let's go to the laugh counter. It didn't have a very great ranking, so it needs a decent laugh counter to be pulled into the top 3 tiers. It didn't get it. It had laugh counter was 8. Got me 8 times, which is not terrible or anything, but not great. So that's it. The grand total is 25.75, which makes it a mediocre. And as for the series average, it went up to a 25.3, which just barely keeps it as mediocre. So thanks for listening and or watching. If you'd like to see a list of our episode and series rankings, you can do that on our website at therankpodcast.com. Remember to subscribe, review, and comment. And please consider supporting us on our Patreon site at patreon.com/therankpodcast. And you'll get access to all of our archived episodes. And don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the episode. So I'll leave you with this. Bobby, Alex, Elaine, and Tony decided to start a band together. You know what they named it?
Well,
The Mooches. They were mooching off Latka.
it's not funny.
Okay. Which was written by Barry Rubinowitz.
Cut!
Barry Rubinowitz, I think.
Cut!
Barry Rubinowitz.
Take 3.
Rubin.
At this rate, we'll be here all night.